here.
Okay.
So I'm just going to go through the questions, and if you can just give me your responses to each of these questions. Although if there's something on, you say something, I might sort of vie away from the script and ask you some additional questions as well.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so the first one is, when did you first become aware of the brain?
It must be about 4 years ago. I was doing a paper with quite a few reference documents, and what I wanted to have is a repository, so I could drop them in, but also at the same time start developing the paper and the structure of the paper, and I wanted to have a repository to tie it into the structure. So I was looking for some sort of a mind mapping type tool, and I just stumbled on them on the web.
Oh, right. Okay. So you didn't see a demo of it or anything. You just found it by literally just searching, Googling, or what have you.
Indeed.
Right. Okay. Why did you want, from that initial experience of using it, from your own research purposes, why did you want to try it out with your students? What were you thinking at the time?
Good question. What I find is that the students don't read enough, and just assigning chapters from the book, or a lot of the web resources that come with textbooks and articles, they do not engage. So what I wanted to do is that if I present a sort of pretty snazzy looking thing that is on the screen, and I'm able to put material on into weeks. There's some videos, some articles, web links, and so on to the lecture program, the lecture slides. My thinking was that they would start exploring the material and start hopefully reading around the topic. Right. And as you know, I teach strategic management, and there's strategy happening all around us. So when I'm reading the Financial Times or the Wall Street Journal, I pick up these sort of snippets and I just put it into a relevant week. So I'm bringing the material to the students.
Okay, good. All right, we'll develop some of those things in a bit more time as well. But moving on, in terms of my third question, how easy was it for you to actually start adding this content to the brain when you first started?
4 years ago. It's relatively easy because it's just click and drop. The difficulty is to understand the linkages, because it works on nodes, and you have parent, you have child thoughts, you have sibling thoughts, and
okay, but that's with the structuring of
that's right.
But the initial putting stuff into the brain,
it's very easy, but it becomes a model if you don't organize it.
Okay, all right.
So
so what were the main difficulties you faced when uploading content to the brain, or were there any?
The uploading is very easy because you drag and drop.
Okay.
It's
and so you're uploading files,
Word
documents.
I can put in PDFs. I can do web links. Videos. I have my blogs. The whole thing is there.
And you didn't have any problems with any of that?
No,
putting it in?
no,
fine.
It's
really
fine. It's really solid. It's very robust.
Okay, which follows on to my next question. Have you actually experienced any technical difficulties at all using the brain?
No.
But in addition to that, you personally, what about, did your students have any problems accessing the brain?
Well, we've been running it. This is the second term that we are running it. So the first term, the way the license I have is that I create the brain, and in this case the business strategy module brain, and I'm the administrator of that. So I can then send emails through the settings function on TheBrain to invite students to access the material as a reader. And email, no reply email is generated by the brain, and then effectively what the students do, that they should just click on the link and fill their details and get into the system. Now, I have not spoken to TheBrain, but a number of students were not able to log in, and my thinking is, and it is something that perhaps we ought to talk to the brain and perhaps send some of this material to them, is that there might be some sort of a time limit after which the email link becomes obsolete. Yeah, stops working.
All right. Okay.
So last term I had to have number of students to resend their emails to me and different email addresses. So I could then invite them in.
Right. Was that a big percent? Do you know roughly? Was that a big percentage of students?
No. And again, based on my, completely unscientific sampling of this, these were the students who were not really engaged, who did not attend classes. So I think that they were in the back end who just didn't bother, getting the links.
Okay. Right.
Or getting signing in.
Yeah. So we're not really sure whether it was them, they couldn't actually be bothered to go in and register with the brain, or whether it was something wrong.
Correct.
Maybe need to investigate that a little bit more. Okay, good.
But I'll come to that in a minute, because this term things have been working tickety-boo.
Okay, all right. Okay, we'll come back to that in a second then. The next several questions are about the teaching side of things rather than the setting up. So, has the brain affected or could affect the way you teach in the classroom? Well, maybe if you could just describe what you do with it in the classroom first of all.
Yeah. I mean, I what I do is that I open up the WebBrain, which is the cloud functionality of the brain in the classroom. And in effect, you have the totality of the syllabus, you have all the material on it. So, for example, today is the first week of the term, and I have a one node that goes through or details the syllabus content. And what I did today is to say, for the next 3 weeks, we are going to study the following areas. And I said, these are the sort of top line headings, and we'll be drilling down into the following components. And I was clicking the node, opening up, drilling into more content. So for the next 3 weeks, they know was coming. And then I said, okay, so let's move on to today's lectures. So I have one node that has the lecture slides. So I opened up week 1, lecture 2, and out pops the overhead. But also on that weekly program or today's lecture, I have links that come, which I have stored down in the video and companies in the news and so on. So I have other material that links into that specific session. So I said to the students, so by the way, going through the slides, through the formal lecture, but there's additional information that relates to what we are discussing, and these sources are here.
Yeah.
So going back into the question you asked me earlier, why? What I'm trying to get the students to do is to say, well, when they, often they just look at for the PowerPoint slides, but now what they do is that when they click on that slide content, they also get a additional link to additional material on that within that session.
Right. Okay.
It makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Just again as an aside, the first time you use it with students, I presume it's the first time they've seen it as well.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, do you get any initial reaction to it in the classroom?
Well, they sit up. I mean, it's something. It looks different.
Straight away, it's
Yeah,
different.
it looks different. And you know, it grabs attention, and that was part of this. This thing is grabbing the attention.
Right.
You know, there's something, you know, slightly different taking place.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the question is then, you know, if they start using it.
Right. Which is another issue. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Which relates to the next question. How does, in your opinion, and asking your opinion, how does the WebBrain compare to using Blackboard? I want you. Your
I mean, that's
personal view.
my personal opinion is because the way I think, I tend to think in more in pictures and maps and connections, and you know, I can deal with the messiness, the dynamic nature of thoughts that come into these nodes. To me, that is a better way of thinking what I'm doing, rather than a linear filing system, which is just clicking into files and opening them up. Because those files are not really interlinked, are they?
No.
Yeah. And that to me is the biggest difference.
Okay.
But that's obviously the personal way of learning and thinking.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if you've got that way of thinking, a proportion of your students will have that way of thinking.
Yeah.
And,
yes.
you know, it's across the board. All right. Moving on. What do you think were the main? What do you think were the main benefits of the brain to the students and yourself? There's two questions there.
Yeah.
First, well, what's the benefits to you personally?
Yeah. The benefit to me is that I can, you know, I use the brain in a lot of my work for various different projects. So the brain is always open on my laptop. So if I'm, you know, coming in the morning and I open up the Financial Times, or there was an article about Apple's market capitalization yesterday in Forbes, and I said, what an interesting article, and I just click on it and dump it into the relevant week in the student brain. So it's, you know, instantaneous. So
right.
So rather than say, well, I now need to open up Blackboard and I need to think about what file I'm going to put it in, because it's a natural process that, you know, I say, well, you know, I'm teaching, I'm lecturing, I'm developing material. So when I see something, I can do very, you know, easily the transfer process.
Okay.
And for students, because I am able to make that connection when I see something, it goes instantaneously into the student brain. They probably get more material from me than if I had to say, well, okay, today I'm going to do something on Blackboard. Right. And I open up the Blackboard and I say, okay, so what kind of material I'm going to go and put in there and start searching for it. Right. Okay. This is a slightly different way. I see something, it goes in.
Yeah. Okay. All right, good. The flip side of that then is, in your opinion, what the main disadvantages of using the brain?
To me?
Yeah. Well, yeah. First of all, well, I suppose to you and to the students again. Is there any disadvantages to you?
I don't. Yeah. I over the past 4 years, I have become so comfortable using it.
Okay.
That in fact, I would. Well, I've been sort of toying with an idea of putting all my files into the brain rather than having anything on my Mac.
Okay. What about the students?
The students, I think, is the messiness, because it is a slightly messy, because it's a dynamic noise repository, and there are thoughts, and I had a student today who said, you know, I was on the brain, but I'm only able to see the videos. And I said, well, you just obviously clicked on a one thought, you just didn't spend time on it.
Right.
So it takes some time for the students to understand it, and spend time exploring the linkages.
Right.
And if you open it up, to explode it to all the material is there, and then it's a real mess.
Yeah.
Because there's so much stuff in there, it's all visible.
Yeah.
So if you are just looking for one piece of information without having gone through all the various different top-level information that I have tried to categorize, it's not as simple as just going, okay, well, week 1, week 2, Blackboard, boom,
right,
open up the file.
Okay. We maybe come back to some of the how we maybe even look at all some of the solutions to that, if there are, I don't know, but let's come back to that, which is the next question, really. I mean, are you planning to make any changes this semester compared to last semester?
Yes.
Are you delivering the same module, obviously, to a different cohort of students? What are those changes that you're planning to make?
Well, the first change was to give the students a user guide.
Oh, yeah. Right. You've done that already.
Yes.
Did that get any reaction at all?
And well, I think it went down well because, in fact, they had something tangible. First of all, they were given a 2-page user guide that you wrote, and that prompted them to take action. So the first lecture was on Monday. And this morning, about 2/3 of the students have already logged in.
How does that compare to last semester? Can you remember at all?
I think it's significantly higher.
Right.
It's significantly higher.
Right. Okay.
And nobody has come to me saying, I have a problem, I cannot log in.
Right.
So it's brilliant. And the stats that is provided to the owner of the site. I think I have so far had about 80 openings and 450 clicks.
Right.
So it shoots up.
Dramatic.
Yeah, it's dramatic. So that was a major improvement.
Okay.
The second thing what I'm doing is that if you look at the bottom of the screen, you can put notes in. So you have the presentation mode where you have just the blue space with the thoughts. You can adjust that, and in the bottom you have notes. So what I'm doing is I'm also writing a very, very brief couple sentence summaries of the material that will be covered at each of the lectures. And if I add a additional link, I said, by the way, I have added a link about this company, or a video about this company that relates to the.
That's just to give the students more guidance around the brain.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, that is that. Okay. So Mikko is writing about this video that is relevant to the lecture. So maybe they will actually play it, and that is exploring and reading around the topic more.
Okay, which is what the objective was in the first place.
Yeah.
Good. Following on from that, do you use the brain to evaluate how much the students are doing in the module? I suppose you're looking at the stats. You've already answered that in one sense.
Yeah, I can look at the stats, but I'm not able to really have access to what they're doing with the brain. I mean, I can see that they have accessed that, but I am not able to see which areas, which areas they go to, or which students and so on.
If you had a different license, would it provide that information?
I don't
No.
know.
Okay.
That I don't know.
Right. Okay. I suppose we could do a bit more investigation about that and see if it can give us that type of information. Right. Next question. In your opinion, does the brain engage students with low levels of motivation? Now, because that was one of your objectives,
Yes.
really. You said at the start, you wanted to provide the information to your students, and you wanted to do it in a more engaging way. Now, it sounds like it is doing that to some extent.
Yes. I mean,
But what about, the students who are really, I wouldn't say totally cut off from what you're doing. They want to get through the module with a minimum effort whatsoever. Is it touching those people?
I can't tell you. See,
Right.
the only way we well, there, as I said, there's still 1/3 of students who have not signed on.
Right.
Okay, and are these the students who don't care?
Right.
So what we have done is that we are driving students onto this platform, because we are saying we are not making the material available on Blackboard. So we are driving the students into the brain, because we are not making the material available on Blackboard. So at minimum, I would expect that students, if they come to a lecture, they would then also open up the lecture slides.
Yeah.
But then again, there are students in this place who never come to lectures. They only come to seminars because they take attendance at the seminars. And
Yeah.
if you're looking at students, well, let me rephrase this. I think that students who make the effort of logging in and make the effort of at least opening some of the files. My thinking is that the material, because it's accessible, it's there, although it might be slightly overwhelming, will encourage students to explore. So, students who may only in the past just opened up lecture slides would probably, have a bit more, incentive to see what else is there. But students who are completely disengaged, they don't open up Blackboard, they don't open up anything. They don't come to lectures, and
Okay.
There's always that element.
Okay. All right. Okay, we're getting on to the last few questions now. A question here I've put in about workload. Has the introduction of TheBrain, which you introduced to yourself, has it changed your overall workload compared to what you were doing before?
Well, it has changed it in a way that it's constant in the background. Because as I said, if I'm reading something on my PC, I might be at home at 10 o'clock in the evening, and something pops up, and I say, oh, that's an interesting article to put into my week 5 lecture. So I click and put it in. So in that sense, the work is there constantly in the background.
Right. Okay. So the answer is yes. Then in one sense,
yeah, it has.
But it doesn't feel onerous, or it doesn't feel. I guess because you're wanting to do it yourself, you can see the advantages.
Yes.
And there's a payback for you.
Yeah. So I don't. In that sense, with the Blackboard, I had to say, well, okay, I'm going to do a Blackboard session now. I'm going to create this stuff for the Blackboard. I'm going to upload my lectures to Dun.
All right, so it's changed the way you're working.
So
whereas TheBrain, you're constantly there doing it in small bits.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're working with Blackboard, the VLE, you have to sit down at a PC somewhere and do it in a time slot or something.
Exactly.
So, okay, and maybe change your hours that you're doing it.
And of course, if you have the brain might be on open up in a small window on my laptop, and then I have the Financial Times open on the other window, and there's an interesting article. I just drag it over and drop it into the brain.
Right. Okay.
And of course, with Blackboard, you're not able to do that sort of thing. You need to have the uploading coming from one program to another, and it actually is more timely.
Okay.
Or time consuming on Blackboard it is on the brain.
Okay. All right. Brilliant. Next question is the final two questions are about your future needs, really. Would you like Regent's College to give you more support to develop the brain?
Mm-hmm.
If so, what further help do you need?
Well, what I would like to do is to allow students to do some assignments on the brain, and for that I need to have the I think it's called the TheBrain.
Okay.
And
how would an assignment work?
yeah,
on the brain?
let me explain. That's a good question. Let me explain it to you. So I have a two coursework assignments, and one assignment is a strategic analysis of a firm within its industry, and it is effectively a desk research assignment, and the students have to collect quite a bit of material from various different sources to do the written report. And with the technology, students work at different locations, and very often with these assignments they have to come together. They have to physically come together and play with piece of paper. I printed that out. You bring what you bring it out. This is what we've done. The TheBrain is a collaboration tool. So although I have not explored it that much, what you're able to do is that you have created a workspace. So people can drop in. So I'm doing a analysis of this industry. I'm looking at these competitors. I'm looking, bringing material, and they would be able to drop this into a.
So you would have the students working in a team. Each team would have its own brain.
Correct. Absolutely. For that
project.
For that project.
Yeah.
And they can then start developing. What are the strategic issues? Okay. Do a little note on that. Recommendations and a note on that, and they can start putting material, and then all the material, the knowledge and the documents and then the web links and so on are on that brain.
That'd be great.
So at some point they will just need to say, well, okay, how are we going to then put this together and write it up?
Right. And then you would have a collection of those little brains, actually, wouldn't you?
Correct.
Yeah. And case studies, basically, around.
That's right.
Those issues.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And I think that would be a fantastic assignment.
Okay.
Because again, don't forget that the other part of this my drive for the brain is to show students that in business, as it is in life, we are increasingly having to deal with a more and more information, and we need to be able to put that information, put that thinking into somewhere, and technology is an enabler. It's there, and they are in their 20s.
Yeah.
I'm a dinosaur compared to them.
Yeah.
But all this thinking will. Why not take advantage of the technology when it's there?
Excellent.
So it would be great to get that type of license.
We'll need to check that out actually and see how much that would cost and the practicalities of doing that, because that's shifting the way you're using the brain from a repository of information into actually an interactive thing that the students are working with. It would be quite a different way of using it, wouldn't it?
So you would have every student would have the groups. You have study groups, and they could create their own virtual team with the platform and repository.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, I'll have to check that out a bit with you. Final question, would you like to make any other comments about the brain to sum up maybe your experience of using it?
It takes a while to get comfortable with it,
right.
But again, when we were talking, I had all kinds of stuff I put in on in the first year, the first 6 months that I used it,
Right.
and I deleted them because they were messy and so on and so forth, and I guess our brains are messy in a way. We hold this information, so it is there is a technique to start thinking about it.
Right.
How things work. You see, we are trained very often, or in the West, to think in sort of linear way. And
even if our brains don't work like that, because we've been trained in that way, we end up using that as a way of learning.
Yeah, little boxes.
Yeah.
Put a bow on or open it up. But here, all of a sudden you have this is a tabula rasa here.
Yeah.
Blank canvas, and you start throwing ideas and
how did you learn that? Just through trial and error.
Just through trial and error. I mean, the good thing about the brain is that they have a significant repository or use of videos for various different different things, and I used to listen to them, the webinars. You have people who write books. They do the book structures on that, and that is in fact what drove me to this in the first place, because I do my doctoral research on that, and also the book structure, the book brain, is something that I think that we can also pass on to the students for them to do in a collaborative basis, do a big term paper.
Oh, right, okay.
So I think it's a great platform. Now I haven't come across anybody in the UK who uses it in the academic context. So I hope that they will carry on developing and do well. I think the one thing we need to check out, obviously, is if you're going to take this further at the university, is to see what sort of company it is, how solid it is. But there have been upgrades coming all the way the past 4 years, so it's pretty solid to me.
Okay, excellent. Right, so if that's it,
that's it.
Good.
Wonderful.
End of
Thank
interview.
you.
I wasn't going to mention it. Well, let's stop this first. Okay, good. So that's stopped. 33 minutes. Good. That's about. And how do I stop this thing?